Greetings, friends and neighbors, and welcome to Episode 8 of the Community Solutions Podcast, coming to you from the students, faculty, staff, and community partners associated with the Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences at the Indiana University Fairbanks School of Public Health in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm Jack Turman Jr., a faculty member in the department, and your host for this podcast. I want to thank you for listening and remind you to keep spreading the word about our podcast to your friends, neighbors, and colleagues around the globe as we work together to build healthy, hope-filled neighborhoods. Please remember to subscribe to, follow, rate, and review our podcast. In our 2 months of existence, we have emerged as a global podcast. We now have listeners in Canada, Brazil, Morocco, Switzerland, and Tanzania. Today, we are going to learn some strategies about growing global health leadership as our students Hadia and Jasmine converse with Professor Sue Babbage, the school's Associate Dean for Global Health. Sue is going to share the importance of growing the number of global health leaders and strengthening even more the capacity of those around the world leading public health efforts. Sue provides a lot of insight into the importance of study abroad experiences as a means of understanding the strengths and needs of communities. Not only do we as Americans need to travel abroad to learn and share, but we need to welcome individuals from other nations to learn and share their wisdom with us. Solving community health issues is a complex task. To derive the best solutions, we need to work together, and we need to be open to learning successful strategies from community leaders living in every corner of our world. I wish you a global, adventurous day. Take the time to learn something new about a place you would love to explore. Let's join the conversation.
Hi, this is Hadia and Jasmine, and we are here with Dr. Sue Babbage, Associate Dean of Global Health at the Richard M. Fairbanks School of Public Health, to discuss global leadership.
Dr. Babbage, could you please tell us a little about yourself and the general scope of your work?
Great. Thanks, you guys, so much for inviting me to be here. I love talking about this topic, and I love my job because as Associate Dean of Global Health, I have the pleasure of helping to develop our school's global strategy, and that includes our plans for internationalizing our curriculum and developing such things as study abroad programming and international partnerships, which is all so important because it is really critical that everybody that graduates out of our School of Public Health have a global perspective.
Yeah, sure.
Now, this concept of global health leadership, could you please explain to our listeners what that means?
Sure. So we are, among many things, we are interested in helping to develop the leadership skills of public health professionals that come out of our school because there are so many really complex and serious global health problems that we need to be able to address. And so few people who are working in public health actually have a formal education in public health. So as both of you know, public health is inherently quite a political issue. And so we need to ensure that graduates that come out of our programs have the political and other skills needed to make these big changes. So that includes having good leadership abilities. And we would define leadership as being the ability to influence those over whom you have no control. And so we are training future public health leaders. And in fact, we are even starting a new doctoral program this fall. It'll be the DRPH program in global health leadership. And that's a program for people who are already established leaders and who want to improve their skills so that they could create change on even a grander scale.
What's the best way to deliver and receive this type of training?
Well, you really can't teach leadership didactically. It doesn't work very well to teach leadership through lectures, for example. Learning about leadership is really more of an experiential process. So the best way to deliver that kind of training is to create scenarios where people have access to meeting and interacting with diverse individuals working in diverse settings who can share their experiences and help broaden everybody's perspectives and hopefully trigger ideas, creative ideas for solving some of these really complex problems that we're dealing with today. I mean things like climate change and infectious disease, the social issues relating to migration and displacements of persons, conflict, and you name it.
Yeah. So let's name it. You talked about these complex issues. How can global health leadership be incorporated into something like HIV health programming?
Well, having good health leadership skills are really critical to solving issues like HIV and AIDS because, as I mentioned, we are talking about something that is inherently political. In other words, to mitigate the spread of HIV, we need really effective public health policies in place in the countries all over, including the U.S., but I mean in countries where, we are most affected by it. And so oftentimes putting those policies in place butts up against values, entrenched interests, and other issues that make it difficult to advance these policies that we know would be effective at helping to stem the spread of AIDS, so HIV. So health leadership is needed because we need people who are equipped with the technical background as well as the people skills and the knowledge and understanding and insights necessary to move the policy processes in the directions that they need to go.
Yeah, for sure. So what role do public health students play in understanding and delivering this type of leadership training or education?
Well, leadership is relevant at all levels. So whether you are a student or a seasoned professional, everybody can use leadership skills to do their part. And so students, really today need a solid background, technical background in public health, but they need the leadership skills, the people skills, the skills to work within these systems. And not only the American system, but at this point, everybody, all of us, need the skills to transcend cultures. And, we have new cultures joining us in the U.S., and all of you are going to be positioned to move across cultures around the world, to work together with people from around the world to collectively solve some of these big problems that transcend borders. So students, the role that students have to play is to get educated and really well prepared for a multicultural future.
Yeah.
Now, along with all this work that you're doing in developing the DRPH program, with your support, the School of Public Health has also initiated and maintained several study abroad programs. So how can we relate these programs to how do these programs relate to global health leadership?
Well, that's right. We really are excited about the study abroad opportunities that we are putting into place. And that's because you really have to get outside your own environment to, number one, understand the global perspective, to gain the global perspective. And, again, this is experiential learning. It's one thing to learn about other cultures in a textbook, but another thing to actually physically be there, meet people who live there, experience the food, the music, the art, the culture, the educational systems, and the ways that people think and work in other cultures. And so, it just matters. We simply have to get outside our own environment and challenge ourselves to go someplace that's unfamiliar. So in addition to, giving everybody the insights they need to help understand better how people think around the world, I think also just getting outside your comfort zone helps to make you more confident. And I think it does help to spur curiosity as well. From my experience, once students get out of the U.S. and go someplace abroad, even for a short time, even a week, they become much more confident and much more curious and interested in exploring other places. So I think it's a great confidence booster, and I think that it is a really good first step toward having more sensitivity and actually becoming more flexible thinkers, and then applying that to the work that you do, even if you are working at home.
Could you talk a little bit about the upcoming study abroad to South Africa that's still in development right now?
Yes, we had a really successful study abroad program in Swaziland last year, and this year we've got a great opportunity to tweak that program because Indiana University is going to be establishing a new South African gateway office in Cape Town. So we are leveraging some contacts we have there and opportunities that new gateway office is going to provide us with, and we are actually going to refocus this trip on South Africa. And so it's going to be an absolutely wonderful opportunity to spend a couple of weeks in South Africa and to learn about the culture and art, music, language in South Africa, but also about the history in South Africa. We have a lot of cultural excursions that will be built into that program, as well as some really important public health sessions that we'll be holding with faculty from University of Cape Town, University of Western Cape, and our own faculty who will be helping to facilitate some understanding of the disease and public health challenges that are being faced by people in South Africa, and how that's relevant to the health system here in the U.S. as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've talked about the benefits of study abroad programs on students and their learning. How can study abroad programs impact health concerns such as HIV specifically?
Well, I think that once people have experience in other cultures, they are much more sensitive to how attitudes and cultural beliefs about health and how people perceive health and receive education about health care. I think students, studying abroad helps to give everybody a greater sensitivity to these differences. And you have to have that understanding in order to effectively work with people. In other words, you have to start with where people are at, because developing programs or policies that don't jive with people's values and beliefs and customs, are really destined to fail. So, so in order to have these policies and programs that are likely to be sustainable and effective, they have to be in sync with the people that they are meant to serve.
You talked about sustainability a little bit as far as making programs culturally competent, but are there other issues with sustainability when we're talking about developing program for HIV specifically within other regions of the world?
Absolutely. Well, I will say that one thing that we're working hard on is reciprocity in our study abroad programs, because really, we have a lot to learn in this country from people all over the world, and it's a real mistake to think that individuals, that communities from low-resource countries don't have something to teach us. In fact, they have a lot to teach us, and so what we would like to do is begin to look for ways that we can, have a more meaningful exchange, so that when our students go to other places, we meet people in those locations and also invite them to come visit us in whether virtually or face-to-face here in our country as well. There's another issue relating to sustainability of study abroad programs, and it really relates to a couple of things. Number one, we often question the value of short-term study abroad programs, and I mean visits to other countries that last, a week or two. Well, the reason we do that in public health, in our programming, is that our programming for public health programs is really tightly choreographed, and there isn't a lot of time in the curriculum to allow students to go overseas for longer periods of time. But students really crave these experiences, and we really feel strongly that these overseas experiences are a huge benefit to students. So the question is, how can we ensure that these experiences are also of benefit to the people that we are visiting? And also, how can we make these visits a meaningful educational experience? So we're working hard on the campus level. We are in the midst of some really earnest discussions about that topic. In the School of Public Health, what we are doing is looking for, as I mentioned, ways of incorporating more reciprocity in the development of these programs. But furthermore, we're also incorporating more classroom time before we go overseas to really talk a lot more about the cultural implications and the understanding the health systems thoroughly before we take students over there. And we are also playing with opportunities to use a virtual classroom, and so to incorporate class sessions before the overseas trip to bring individuals from those locations that we'll be visiting, bring them into the classroom, and where they can benefit from the discussions before our students travel to their countries. And so maybe in the next year or two, you can invite me back and I can tell you more about some of those course options that we're developing. But I also think, again, in terms of sustainability, we need to make sure that everybody has a good opportunity to go overseas, and that means we need funding to support scholarships for study abroad, and that's something that we're working on hard to develop opportunities for people who would like to support us, help support scholarships for students, because we want everybody, regardless of their ability to pay, to have an opportunity to travel overseas, because we really feel that that is utterly critical to a well-rounded public health education today.
So how do we support host countries' ability to create strong health leaders?
Well, many low-resource countries, if that's what we're talking about, already have they already have strong health leaders. They already have the ability to fix their own problems. Yeah. But by sharing and learning from others around the world, they, like we, can strengthen our ability to be effective in strengthening our health systems and solving our problems. For example, our School of Public Health is working with the Moi University School of Public Health in Eldoret, Kenya, where our IU School of Medicine AMPATH program is based. And we are working with faculty there. We've got a grant through CTSI to look at the competency model that underlies the IU doctoral program in global health leadership. And we're going to check to see if those competencies match the learning needs of health leaders in Kenya. And if they do, then we are going to proceed with a proposal to develop a similar doctoral program at Moi. And then once that program is established, the mission of that program will be to train and strengthen the health leadership capacity of public health practitioners in Kenya. But we are going to then partner with them, our program and theirs. We'll do some cross-teaching. We'll have our students mix and learn from each other. And in that way, we will strengthen the health leadership training that we're providing to students both in Africa as well as in the U.S.
Before we close our discussion today, Dr. Babich, can you please leave us with 5 tips about how we can all be strong health leaders in our communities?
Okay. Now, you surprised me with this one. And so there must be 100 tips I could give you. But just off the top of my head, I'll give you 5. Now, for the first one that comes to mind is a piece of advice that my older sister gave me when I was a teenager. And she said, anytime anybody offers you an opportunity to travel, take it. Don't think twice. Take it. And I really think that travel and getting outside your own environment is really critical to developing good leadership skills. As I mentioned earlier, I think it helps you develop confidence, a broader worldview, and there are many benefits to travel. But I think that one of the benefits is related to the second tip that I would have, and that is to really focus on developing cultural humility or competency. Really open yourself up to experience other cultures and to think about how they view healthcare in terms of their attitudes and beliefs and cultural practices. And because until we understand how others view health, we will never be able to effectively work with them or work together with them to solve these global health challenges. Third tip would be to get educated. Absolutely, as you are, get an education in public health. Don't stop with a bachelor's degree. Go on to graduate school, and if you're motivated, go on and get your doctoral degree as well. And then, in addition to a solid education, get experience. Get out there and work. Get into the practice world. Look for diverse experiences. Push yourself beyond your comfort zone, and collect experiences that'll make you better prepared for your next position. And never stop learning. Nobody should ever finish their education, because in the field of health, everything is changing constantly. You have to keep up with it, and it's really critical to continue honing the skills you've already developed and adding to them.
That's amazing. Well, you provided us with a wealth of information, and we want to thank you again, Dr. Babbage, for coming to meet with us and discuss all of your amazing work that you're doing around the world.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure.